se oye el rumor de un pregonar.
In the early months of 1959, Celia Cruz was hired to sing, with a pianist, at the house of the Cuban businessman Miguel Ángel Quevedo. Quevedo owned the magazine Bohemia, the most influential of Cuba and who had supported the revolution in the last few years.
La guerrilla, con un tal Fidel Castro al frente, proclamó en Santiago el inicio de la revolución.
At this moment, Celia enjoyed great popularity for Yerbero Moderno, Tu Voz and Burundanga, songs she had stuck with the Sonora Matancera. As a guest artist of Rogelio Martinez's group, the Guarachera was free to accept other contracts as a soloist. This allowed her to show her talent on a different radio station of La Habana and performance in Mexico, Venezuela, and Peru. Since the military regime took the power, it had begun to seize business, radio, and television.
La revolución era algo así como una esperanza, y aquella alegría posiblemente nos impedía pensar en todo lo que teníamos que hacer todavía.
For the Guarachera, Fidel was ending with the free speech and the art in her country. The night of the show, Celia was standing up, singing next to the pianist, when suddenly the guests ran to the door of the house. Fidel Castro had arrived. Suddenly, Quevedo approached Celia and told her that Fidel wanted to meet her because, in his guerrilla days, he cleaned his rifle by hearing Burundanga. Celia replied that she'd been hired to sing along the piano and that this was her place. If Fidel wants to meet her, he had to come. But the commandant didn't do that. One year later, in 1960, Celia was hired to sing at the Blanquita Theater of La Habana with several other orchestras. After rehearsal, the show's director announced that they would have a very special guest that night, and he asked each of them to come down and say hello. At that moment, Celia had taken an even critical stance towards the regime. Something made her sense that special guest was Castro. And she wasn't wrong. According to the Guarachera, that night almost all the artists who participated in the show were portrayed with Fidel. The commander, upon learning that Celia was on the poster, urged the organizer to ask her to sing Burundanga. However, the Guarachera would not agree. As she knew all the musicians who would perform with her, minutes before she went on the stage, they agreed to say they didn't bring the scores and that no one knew the song. That night, instead Burundanga, Celia sang Cow Cow Manipi Cow. At the end of the number, the entire theater applauded standing, surrendered to her voice. But Celia didn't want to know anything about Fidel, so in the midst of the ovation, she left the stage. On her way to the dressing room, the artistic director told her that he wouldn't pay her. She hadn't bowed to the commander. Celia watched him to the eyes and replied that if she had to get down to make money, she'd rather not have it. This year, men of the government have searched for Celia many times to show up for communist activities, but she always refused. The situation was becoming more and more harassing. Only those who cheered for Fidel got a job. For that reason, on July 14, 1960, Celia traveled to Mexico to make a series of presentations. Since that, the communication with her family would be limited to phone calls. The Guarachera knew her calls were intercepted. For the sake of her family, she didn't mention political issues. Although she was against the regime and didn't plan to return to the island, an event would change things in April 1962. The death of her mother. When she found out, Celia wanted to say goodbye to her mother in person, so she started doing the paperwork for her return. However, when she least expected it, Fidel would be chaired his rematch. The permit was denied. On the day her mother was buried, Celia was invaded by anger and despair. She felt her eyes dry out of so much crying. Since then, she saw that while the regime was in the power, she wouldn't return to Cuba.
Toda la vida yo he cantado música alegre, o sea que nunca me gusta cantar nada triste, pues debo tener mis momentos de tristeza, puesto que no tengo a mi mamá, que ya murió, no tengo a mi papá, estando fuera no tengo a mi familia, pero eso es para mí, para mi interior, un momento que me pongo a pensar que quisiera estar con ellos, pero no quiero transmitirlo al público. Yo creo que el público paga para ver a Celia Cruz la alegre, no la triste.